I recently learned about morality clauses, which, if you don't know, are basically parts of teacher contracts that limit what the teacher can do in their private life. For example, a Catholic school may require their teachers not to get gay married, and if they were to get gay married, they'd be fired. This raises a general question for me, and that's this. When is a teacher's private history a morally justifiable reason for a school to fire them? So let's say a teacher is an exotic dancer. Does that matter? Would you care if your kid's teacher was an exotic dancer? Or what if your teacher had a criminal history? Would that be a morally justifiable reason for termination? I asked the internet to see what people had to say, and here were some of their responses. One person wrote, "As long as there's no felonies, teach away." So that gives me the impression that it would have to be a serious crime. I can kind of see what this person means, but I wonder what the justification for it would be. Is the idea that a person who is willing to commit a felony more likely to harm kids or something? I'm not sure. I want to know what the underlying reason is, though. Another person says, a teacher's history is none of the school's business unless their private history puts the students at risk of injury. So here we have further clarification, right? What matters is risk of injury to kids. What matters is their well-being. What you do on your own time is your business, but it becomes a problem if it puts students at risk. I wonder what example this person had in mind, though. Like maybe some violent crime? The idea being that a person with a violent criminal history is more likely to harm students? I'm not sure. All right, let's look at the next one. Morally justifiable, I would say anything that endangers the children or the teacher's ability to teach. Unfortunately, I come from a state where the requirement is that it be suitably disruptive to the learning environment, which can really be anything. Okay, so a couple of thoughts. First, this person added another reason to fire a teacher. It's not just endangering students. What also matters is if it inhibits your ability to teach. And second, I am also not sure what suitably disruptive is supposed to mean. It's such a vague and ambiguous phrase. It makes me worried that it would allow the school so much leeway to fire a teacher. Like what if a teacher got a DUI? Would that be suitably disruptive? I honestly don't know what that means. My best guess is that it would disrupt the students' learning. So maybe if you were an exotic dancer and the students found out, they wouldn't respect you or something? They wouldn't want to learn from you? I'm not sure. I think a teacher that gets their own children taken by CPS should probably be fired from their teaching position. So CPS would be Child Protective Services. I'm guessing the idea is that since the teacher treated their own children very badly, they're at a much higher risk of mistreating their students. So again, it's about protecting the students' well-being, right? Realistically, teachers work with children and get minimal supervision. We're observed twice a year and usually know when it's scheduled if you're friendly with a secretary. Probably any history of abuse or violent behavior should be disqualifying. Mental illness mostly isn't anyone's business. That being said, over the years, I have also worked with two teachers who were really mentally unstable, not just depression or anxiety. One was a danger to herself and was taken out of the building in an ambulance with police involvement. The other one isn't harmful, just really ineffective and prone to public meltdowns with extended absences. It does impact her students and coworkers. So I would suggest maybe serious mental illness. I can understand this person's point of view, although it's not really a person's private history at that point, right? Like if they're really having meltdowns with extended absences, then they're just not able to do their job well, right? So the fact that the reason was mental illness is almost irrelevant. Like if you had a lazy teacher who didn't show up to work, that would be a sufficient reason to fire them, right? And it wouldn't have anything to do with their private life. It's just totally based on their job performance. As a parent, I do need some level of reassurance that my kid's teacher has demonstrated and maintained a level of moral integrity. Crimes of a violent and or sexual nature, history of abuse, known connections with criminals, evidence of poor judgment reaching the point of negligence, or evidence of substance abuse either on or off site, all would be justifiable reasons to remove a teacher from the pool. Okay, what's interesting about this one is that it specifically mentions moral integrity. What do you all think about that? Right? This comment raises the question of whether we think teachers need to be role models in their private lives as well. Does the teacher have to be a quote-unquote good person? Another thought that came to mind was that these responses were about K-12. I wonder how different their opinions would be if we were talking about a professor. Like, would it matter if a professor was or is an exotic dancer? Would it be justified to fire them for that reason? Maybe we think, well, a professor's different because the students are already adults and they've already formed their character. Hence, they're not as vulnerable. So the fact that the professor does something unorthodox in their private life won't negatively affect the students. Maybe you think that. But then again, if the professor had some criminal history, maybe that would negatively impact the students somehow? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I think it's an interesting question to explore. All right, I'm going to end it here. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you all next time.